You know that feeling in a board game when someone picks their starting position and you immediately think, that's not fair? Like in Catan, when someone grabs the hex that has wheat, ore, and a port all touching it, and you're sitting there with one sheep tile and a desert neighbor. The game hasn't even started, and you already know how it ends. That's America. Before a single war was fought, before a single law was written, before anyone even called it America, geography had already handed this place the best starting position in the history of the world. And today, we're going to prove it using these two boards and Monopoly money and some battleships if we need them. Hi, I'm Rag. I'm a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and I'm very passionate about geopolitics. I once dreamed of becoming a diplomat, spent years studying international relations, geography, and the power games nations play. That dream didn't pan out, but the knowledge stuck, and it completely changed how I see the world. And now, I want to do the same for you. Next time a headline drops or a debate breaks out at dinner, you won't just nod along, you'll get it. The context, the history, the why it matters. Because the world is a strategy game, and I'm here to explain it to you, one video at a time. Welcome to the Lore of Power. Let's play. If you have played Risk, you know the first thing everyone fights over is territory. Where you start determines everything. How easy it's going to be to defend yourself, how many armies you collect, and whether you can actually grow. Now look at this board. Seriously, look at it. Europe is a nightmare. Every territory shares a border with 3 or 4 others. France touches Germany, Germany touches Poland, Poland touches Ukraine. Everyone is one bad dice roll from being invaded. You spend your whole game just defending what you have. Sound familiar? That's basically European history for the last 1,000 years. Now look at North America. It's a fortress. You got ocean on the left, ocean on the right. There are only 3 entry points into the entire continent. Alaska up top, Central America at the bottom, and Greenland in the corner. That's it. 3 choke points to defend the whole thing. In risk terms, North America is what every player wants. It's easy to hold, hard to crack, and it pays out bonus armies every turn once you own it. America didn't just get lucky with geography, it got the risk equivalent of a wall around its entire continent, with oceans so wide that no enemy in history has ever successfully crossed them to invade. Britain tried in 1812 but couldn't sustain. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941 but couldn't follow up with a land invasion because the Pacific is just too massive. These oceans aren't just water. They are America's permanent free zero maintenance army. Think about it. America's strongest rivals post-independence were Britain, France, Germany, Japan, and the Soviet Union. 5 of the most powerful nations in the history of the world, and not one of them shared a border with the United States. Every single one of them had to cross an ocean first, just to threaten it. Compare that to how every other great power in history has lived. France spent centuries worried about Germany next door. Russia has always worried about Europe to its west. Distance is a luxury most nations never get, and America had it by default. And that geographic cushion meant something else too. America never needed a giant standing army. While European powers spent enormous portions of their wealth just maintaining troops on their borders, America could redirect that money into business, industries, and infrastructure. Even before World War II, America was lightly militarized compared to its European peers. It was geography that let America spend its money on growth instead of survival. And here's the best part. Those same oceans connect America to every trade route on the planet. The Atlantic to Europe, the Pacific to Asia. America doesn't just hide behind its oceans. This two-ocean position helps it project power everywhere else, while nobody can touch it at home. In Risk, the territories next to you matter as much as the ones you own. Dangerous neighbors drain you. They force you to keep armies on your borders instead of pushing outward. Look at Ukraine on this board. It's supposed to be here. It borders 6 territories. 6. Every single turn, someone is attacking it from somewhere. It can never really breathe. Sound familiar? That's literally Ukraine's real life. Now look at America's neighbors. Canada, vast, cold, peaceful, never a threat. In the history of modern world, Canada has been about as aggressive towards America as a golden retriever. Mexico has its own challenges, yes, but in the modern world it has not posed a serious military threat to the United States. That's it. Two neighbors, zero existential threats. America gets to look outward, pushing armies into Europe, Asia, the Middle East, while its back is completely safe. Compare that to China, which shares borders with 14 different countries, including Russia, India, and North Korea. Just managing those borders is a full time foreign policy job. But it goes even deeper than that. The borders themselves are naturally hard to cross. The northern border with Canada is shielded by vast forests, enormous lakes, and brutal cold. And the southern border with Mexico runs through desert and mountain terrain that makes large scale military movement difficult, if not impossible. Nature itself helps defend the country. It's not just that neighbors are peaceful, it's that even if they were not, the terrain would slow them down. And that matters more than it sounds. Understand this, most great powers throughout history have had to share their backyard with a rival. America never did. In fact, in 1823, America made that explicit. The Monroe Doctrine basically told Europe to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. At the time, it sounded almost arrogant. A young nation, barely 50 years old, drawing a line around an entire hemisphere. But geography made it credible. America could afford to focus on locking down its own neighborhood before worrying about competing globally. And it worked. In Risk, the player with the fewest border threats wins. And America is almost uniquely blessed in that regard. Okay, let's switch games. Because if Risk explains America's defense, Catan explains its wealth. In Catan, everything comes down to three things: what resources you have, how many you produce, and whether you can trade them. Wheat feeds your cities, ore builds them, wood and brick get you started, and the ports let you trade what you have for what you need. Now imagine someone placed the American continent as a Catan map. It would be the most overpowered starting position ever designed. Wheat, the American Midwest and Great Plains are some of the most fertile farmland on earth, enough to feed the entire country and still export to the world. Or, the Appalachian Mountains in the Midwest are stuffed with coal, iron, and every mineral that powered the Industrial Revolution. And wood, America has enormous forests from the Pacific Northwest to the Southeast. And something most people overlook: America doesn't just have resources, it has almost every climate zone on the planet packed into a single country. It has deserts in the southwest, temperate forests in the east, vast grasslands in the center. It has mountains, subtropical regions, fertile river valleys. So basically, America can produce almost everything. And that extends to energy too. The US sits on massive reserves of coal, oil, and natural gas. While many powerful countries depend entirely on imported energy, and therefore on the goodwill of whoever sells it to them, America has often had the option not to. And that gives an enormous strategic freedom that most nations simply don't have. And the ports? America has over 12,000 miles of coastline, deep natural harbors perfect for shipping on both coasts. New York, Boston, Baltimore on the east, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle on the west. You can ship your goods directly to Europe or Asia without ever asking anyone's permission. In Catan, the player who controls the 2:1 port for their most abundant resource wins almost every time. America effectively has 2:1 ports on two different oceans. But here's the piece that makes it truly unfair. In Catan, how do you move your resources from your hex to the port? You just do. It's a board game. But in real life, that's the hard part. Moving goods from the middle of a continent to the coast is expensive, slow, and difficult. Unless you have rivers. America has the Mississippi River system. The Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, one of the largest networks of navigable rivers on Earth, all flowing through the most fertile farmland on the planet. And the Mississippi system doesn't work alone. The Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, Ontario, form one of the largest freshwater transportation networks on Earth. Raw materials came in off the lakes, finished goods went out. The lakes were America's inland sea, and they were free. It's like Catan gave you a free road network from every single resource hex directly to your best port. For free. Built by nature. A farmer in the middle of America could grow wheat, load it onto a river barge, and float it all the way to New Orleans to be shipped to Europe without ever leaving American controlled water. In fact, Peter Zeihan, one of the best geopolitical thinkers alive, calls this the single greatest geographic gift any nation has ever received. Here's something neither board game can fully capture, and that's timing. In Risk or Catan, everyone starts at the same moment. But real geopolitics doesn't work that way. When you enter the game matters as much as where. America declared independence in 1776, right at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Coal and iron, the resources America had in abundance, were about to become the most valuable things on the planet. And America inherited centuries of European progress too. By 1776, Europe had already developed modern banking, scientific knowledge, and industrial technology. America didn't have to invent those systems from scratch. It absorbed them, adapted them, and applied them with none of the feudal baggage that slowed Europe down. It basically started the race already halfway through a lap that took others centuries to run. While Europe spent the next 100 years tearing itself apart, Napoleon's wars, revolutions, collapsing empires, America sat behind its ocean moats and quietly industrialized. Imagine everyone else on the board is fighting each other in Europe and Asia, burning through armies, losing territories, exhausting themselves. And you are just sitting in North America, collecting your bonus armies every single turn, completely untouched. That untouched part matters more than people realize. During both world wars, Europe lost factories, railways, cities, millions of workers. The physical infrastructure of entire nations was destroyed, and America comparatively lost nothing. When the wars ended, America's factories were still standing. Everyone else needed rebuilding, and America was the only one left with the capacity to do it. By the time World War I ended, America was the largest economy on the planet, and it had barely even been trying. It just grew in peace while everyone else fled. And then after World War II, America did something even more powerful than winning. It rebuilt America through something called the Bretton Woods Agreement and the Marshall Plan. We'll discuss this elaborately in another video. And in exchange, the world agreed to use the American dollar for most major trade. That also made America the world's banker. Every country rebuilding after 1945 needed loans, reconstruction funding, and dollars to buy things that fueled recovery. To this day, almost every country on earth needs dollars to buy oil. Every major commodity is priced in dollar. America got to print money that the whole world is forced to use. In Catan terms, that's like convincing everyone at the table that your ore counts as 2 ore for trading purposes, permanently. That's not just winning the game, that's rewriting the rules. Here's the sneakiest advantage of all, and it's one that compounds over time. All of these geographic gifts created one thing above everything else: stability. And stability attracts people. When Europe was collapsing in the 1800s and 1900s, they had wars, famine, persecution, revolutions. The most ambitious, most desperate, and most brilliant people on the continent looked at a map and chose America. The Irish fleeing famine, Jewish families fleeing persecution, Italian workers seeking opportunity, German engineers fleeing failed revolutions, later Indian software developers, Chinese scientists, Latin American entrepreneurs. In Catan, imagine if every time another player got into trouble, they had to hand one of their best resource cards to you. That's basically what happened to America for 200 years. The world's chaos kept delivering human talent straight to its shores. Einstein came to America. Werner von Braun, a German, built rockets that put America on the moon. The Manhattan Project, which created the nuclear bomb, was largely designed by European immigrants fleeing fascism. The talent that arrived built companies. The companies created wealth. The wealth built universities, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, institutions that now attract the next generation of global talent. A physicist leaves Germany, an engineer leaves Russia, a software developer leaves India, a startup founder leaves China. They all end up in the same place. The wealth those institutions produce attracts more talent, which creates more wealth, which builds more institutions. So basically, geographic safety brought stability, which attracted immigrants, and talent, which brought in innovation and more power. It's a chain reaction, a self reinforcing loop, and it all started with a map. Here's one final thing, and almost nobody talks about this. Everything we have covered so far focuses on what America has: the oceans, the resources, the rivers, timing. But there's another version of geographic luck that is just as powerful. It's what America doesn't have. Think about the countries that struggle to hold together as single unified nations. For example, Brazil has the Amazon, their impenetrable jungle that cuts off huge portions of the country from the rest. Russia has Siberia, freezing, sparsely populated, almost impossible to develop. India gets split and stressed by the monsoon cycles, mountain ranges, and enormous geographic diversity. China has western deserts, eastern coastline, and a mountain spine that historically made connecting its regions a massive engineering challenge. America's core territory? It's boring. Most of America's productive land is simply easy to live on. It's easy to farm and easy to connect. That sounds obvious until you compare it to everywhere else. Geography doesn't just protect America from invasions, it makes governing America dramatically easier than governing most large countries. In Risk and Catan, the player who controls the most connected territory, who can move pieces and resources without obstacles, has a structural edge every single turn. And America's boring, flat, river laced interior is that edge. Built in, it's permanent. So let's total up the score. America has the most defensible continent. Ocean moats on two sides. Only 3 entry points to protect and neighbors who pose zero threat. It can project power globally while nobody else can touch it at home. And America has the best farmland, the best mineral resources, ports on two oceans, and a built-in river road system connecting everything together. Oh, and it convinced the whole world to use its currency, which is basically the ultimate development card. Does that mean America did nothing right on its own? No. Plenty of countries started with great geography and wasted it. For example, Argentina has incredible farmland and spent a century in economic chaos. The Congo sits on $24 trillion in minerals, but is one of the poorest countries on earth. So what do we learn? We learn that geography is the starting position. What you do with it still matters. But the truth that these two board games keep teaching us every single time we play: the player who starts with the best position wins more often than not. Not always, not automatically, but enough that it stops looking like luck. America didn't get lucky. It just spawned in the most strategically perfect position in human history, at the most opportune moment in history, and then played the hand well. The real story of American power doesn't start in Philadelphia in 1776. It starts on a map. If this made you think differently about how the world works, I'm making more of these. If you found value here, do like and subscribe. Next up, I'll tell you why China is rising so fast and whether its geography can keep up. See you there.